Platemark is a podcast about prints and the printmaking ecosystem. I'm your host, Ann Schaefer. I work to promote prints and printmaking through this podcast, organizing fine art print fairs, and also organizing exhibitions, albeit intermittently. The goal of the pod is to demystify the world of prints and printmaking, which can be technically challenging, and to demonstrate the range of opportunities to work in this charming corner of the art world. This is a show that takes you behind the scenes to expose the generous and collaborative and creative people working to better the world one print at a time. Today's guests are doing just that. Today I'm talking to Shraddha Ramani and William Villalongo, who together have created an amazing project. 30 prints split between 6 print shops of 5 each that together create a group of works that look back to and update for a modern audience a portfolio created around 1900 by W.E.B. Du Bois called A Series of Statistical Charts Illustrating the Condition of Descendants of Former African Slaves Now in Residence in the United States of America. It was a group of drawings that charted various statistics about how Black Americans were doing after emancipation. And as we all know, it's a multi-layered story. So we talk a lot about the history of the project, but we also talk about their experience of putting it all together. The shops that Will and Shraddha are working with include Graphic Studio at the University of South Florida in Tampa, Powerhouse Arts in Brooklyn, Island Press at Bois in St. Louis, the High Point Center for Prints in Minneapolis, Maloney Printing in Portland, Oregon, and Paulson Fontaine in Berkeley, California. The whole set of prints will be making its debut in an exhibition at Print Center New York this fall, September 18 through December 13th, 2025. The exhibition is curated by Tiffany Barber. I think you'll enjoy the conversation. It's important stuff, so, as I like to say to students, listen up. All right, housekeeping. I identify as a cishet white woman, and I use the pronouns she, her. I record Platemark in Baltimore, Maryland, the land of the Piscataway Conoy people. Images that Will, Shraddha, and I talk about are in the show notes at platemarkpodcast.com. Over there, you could also hit support and donate for me and help me keep the lights on. All right, let's get rolling. Shraddha, William, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining me on Platemark today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Okay, so we're here to talk about, I want to talk to you guys about lots of things, but primarily we're here to talk about this giant project you guys are working on and finishing up hopefully soon because it's going on the wall in the fall. Let's just jump right into the project and then we'll circle back out to you guys and how you came to the project.
So we are collaborating on a project called Printing Black America that's based on this work done by W.E.B. Du Bois called The American Negro. That was a series of data visualizations about Black Americans created in 1900 for the World's Fair in Paris. They are using data and visualization to show how Black Americans are doing at that point, 40 years after emancipation. And these were digitized in 2018 and published in a book that was sitting in our coffee table back in 2020 when we were sitting around our coffee table a lot and having conversations. And we looked at it and thought we could, take this on as a project and update it for today. And Will thought it would be great as a printmaking project. So 5 years later, we're finishing this up. So
yeah. I guess I would add that the American Negro exhibition that Du Bois was able to pull into the World's Fair was sort of contrasting, or at least that fair was contrasting industrialized nations' ideas of progress against people of the global South. And one of the reasons why Du Bois thought it was important is because people actually thought that Black Americans at that time were going to go extinct outside of the institution of slavery, that the population would go extinct. But Du Bois found a very different picture, an even more hopeful picture. We were 2020, this is after George Floyd had been murdered. We had so many conversations about, everybody's like, what can you do? And like, what do you do about this? Or what do you do in the face of this? So it really became a kind of point of conversation, looking at questions about Black lives came up a lot and the meaning of them. And we were having these conversations around this book.
I'm a little confused about how they thought that the Black race would go extinct. I don't understand that logic. What is going on there?
Oh, I mean, well, first of all, we're talking about 1900, the later half of the 19th century, early 20th century. And I do believe that white people thought that without slavery, that, Black people would not be able to sustain themselves or their populations without a type of, yeah.
Sorry, I'm shaking my head, people.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you do everything you can to try to keep people away from resources and education, and maybe you might feel that you've been successful enough at that, and that would be the outcome. But what Du Bois found was that Black people were, in fact, extremely intelligent in making their own communities and making their own business districts and police stations and all the amenities of society, without necessarily the help of the U.S. government.
Or their white neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still, I mean, I don't mean to be naive or anything. It just still astonishes me. Like, I don't understand how you could live with so much hate in your mind and your heart, like it just makes no sense to me. Ugh. Anyway, sorry. I digress. All right. So do you know who it was that decided to digitize the portfolio in 2018? Who headed that project up?
Taking the archive at the Library of Congress and digitizing it was a project by the Du Bois Center at UMass Amherst. And that was led by Whitney Battle and Britt Russert. They published this book that we were talking about called W.E.B. Du Bois Data Portraits, Visualizing Black America.
The thing that always surprises me about the set of their drawings, they're unique objects, which always amazes me that Du Bois didn't get them printed somehow so that, in the way that prints are so good, spread the word far and wide. Like it's fascinating to me that it was done in one single thing.
The whole thing was done in a matter of months, and then shipped over physically to Paris. He had, I think, very little time and almost no resources to get this together. So he was really using his own networks, his students, to pull together whatever he could at the time to get it in time for the World's Fair.
Do you know whether he went to Paris and saw everything installed?
He did, yeah.
He did.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
And then it was
Nice.
shown again at a couple of other World's Fairs in the U.S. after.
Or U.S. fairs, national fairs. So, yeah, it's a good question. And I don't know the answer to it, but I know that doing something even at a printing press, like a commercial printing press, would be pretty expensive to have this even printed and sort of published in that way. And Du Bois certainly had was at least finds himself building up to have that type of capacity and resources as he started Crisis Magazine and things. He found himself in the publishing world eventually. But maybe this was a little bit early in his career.
Okay, so everybody, the original drawings that Du Bois did for this project are at the Library of Congress, and there's how many, 63 or something?
That's right, yeah, 63.
Yeah. Oh, wow, how did I remember that? Jesus,
Really
63. 63 of them, and it's great that they're there. Of course, they don't get out on view very often. They're probably super light sensitive, so thank God somebody digitized them finally, which is great. So I love that you guys were sitting around during, cocktail hour thinking about this project. Did you match up your stats one-to-one with what he was looking at, or did you design a whole new set of questions?
So originally, that was our idea, is to look at each visualization one-to-one, just do an update with current data. But we had a long time to think about this, and we had a lot of conversations. And some of the things that we realized are that, one, Du Bois was collecting data that did not exist elsewhere at the time, specifically about Black Americans. And some of these data sets are now very commonly collected and available in the census and in other places. So part of what was innovative about the work that he was doing is his ability to go out and collect these new data sets to reveal how people live and work and communities. So we thought, if we're trying to keep the spirit of Du Bois's work, we should be looking at, what are people doing currently in that field? What are researchers doing in Black communities, and highlight that type of work? And so we moved away from the idea of doing a one-to-one, and more in keeping with the spirit of his work, tried to highlight things. Some of them we do one-to-one, and some of them we thought are issues that are still very relevant today that we should update. And then other things we thought were less important to, do a one-to-one, and maybe it's more important to highlight some other work that someone's doing currently that
Sure.
speaks to, the legacy of Du Bois and the work that he did.
But Shraddha, the thing that's so interesting to me is, William and I are on the art side of things. I wouldn't know how to start doing this research. Like you must know. So tell us about you and your career, which is on the other side of the project.
Yeah, so I am an urban planner, and I was very attracted to making maps and using maps and data as ways to understand communities, understand the ways that we live in cities. And then through maps, I got into data, because that's what lies behind a map. And I had to learn a lot about, what data exists out there, how to work with it. So that's my side of this project. I would say that Will does a lot of research in his own work, maybe not data-focused research, but definitely like the concepts and the ideas are things that we've thought about jointly. I've relied very heavily on census data in this project, which is something that I also use a lot in my own work. But I think those skills of getting numbers in a table and crunching them and turning them into a visual are very mysterious to, to a lot of people who don't do this work, but it's not very glamorous, but it's pretty straightforward, and that's our starting point here. So
yeah, my husband is a spreadsheet jockey, and I can alphabetize a list on a spreadsheet. And that is it. Yeah. I find it fascinating, but I just can't. It's a language that just makes no sense to me. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So what I love about the project is that, well, for William, for you, your work has generally been narrative figurative, with obviously things on the periphery of that. But taking data, you're going into a really abstracted, conceptual space, which is so cool, and it's not just abstract, it's really telling a story. And I love that marriage of the information and the abstraction. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, as we're getting into it, right, like narrative, there is something narrative and figurative about the whole thing. One of the things I wanted to say, just to build off what Shraddha was saying, was that the conversation, this is highly collaborative, and we did have conversations with Nell Urban Painter, who's a historian and an artist herself. I think our initial conversations were probably with Nell. And then we also had some good conversations with Mabel O. Wilson, Laura Kurgan, among other people. So that I just want to, make sure that those people are highlighted, because that really helped us think about it. And so my former research is asking people who know stuff that I don't know, who know better than I do, and just asking them. And that kind of led us down a lot of interesting pathways. I would say for myself in my own work, just to be more direct to your question, Anne, is that in the more recent work that I've been doing, I have been entering the figurative work has moved more abstract and more into a space of research. And one of the questions that I've been asking is, how do we see a Black figure without the body being present, without the corporeality being the kind of progenitor of meaning for the Black subject? So this actually is exactly that. It's these are charts and graphs, but they tell stories, like you said, and they speak to the figures and the people that are in the data.
And we should recognize at this point that you have an exhibition that is ending its tour this summer as we're recording this. Here's the book, people, and which William gave me at Brooklyn. Thank you. Which looks like an amazing show, and it does include these works that are sort of unbody but body and everything, which was put together by Dan Strong, right, at Grinnell?
Yes.
Who was a classmate of mine in grad school.
Wow.
Small
Awesome.
world. I know. It's so bizarre. But anyway, so if anybody is near the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, you should go see it, and you should pick up the catalog. So well done on that. Yeah, I'm. You look like you're firing on all cylinders, as they say.
Okay, I guess so.
Doesn't it feel like that?
I'm just tired. I got the baby. You have no choice.
Well, that's the other thing that we should make clear. You guys are married and you have a small baby in the house. How old is she?
She just turned 1.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, but you've been busy in all ways, which is great.
Yeah, you just keep going. And so that's the method, is like if you stop and question things too much, then you mess up.
Yeah. You just got to keep going. That is true. Yeah. And I always tell young parents, like, the first 5 years I thought would never end, and then it flies. It was nuts. It was totally nuts. Anyway, because we're a podcast about printmaking, I wanted to ask you about the process of putting together the portfolios, multiple portfolios, and how, like, whose idea was it to work with so many different print shops? And the structure of it fascinates me. I'm not sure it's ever been done like this before.
Yeah, I think Will originally, he's worked in the past with Graphic Studio in Tampa at USF. And when we came up with this idea, we wrote a proposal and pitched it to them, and they were very interested. And then as we started having conversations about the size of this project, originally we were thinking to do 63, and then slowly came to our senses and, narrowed it down to 30. But that's still a lot for one shop to take on, and so.
And Graphic Studio really helped us understand from a printmaker's point of view and from a printmaking shop point of view what this actually looked like. And then they were really generous, and they were like, well, let's keep talking, and maybe we can help look at this in a logistic way so that it would be something that multiple shops could take on. Like if we divided this in a way that multiple shops might be able to take on a portfolio, you could get to that, you could probably get to 30. The other side of that is just good old hustle, which is me going around like I don't know, like Barnum and Bailey, and selling and trying to get people and printmakers and shops interested, making my endless PDF deck that I've just been working on for 5 years and sending and updating and getting people excited about it. So I guess that's how the sausage was made in a sense. The project is really living on just the sheer, I think, excitement of what it is as a project, and its meaningfulness in the current time that we live in. I think people feel it. All the shops that we're working with feel that. They feel like it's significant, and that's a lot of motivation that has helped us find resources that we need. I would say, though, the printmaking idea also, to a certain extent, I think, is when we saw the original Du Bois, I had the same question you had, Anne, is like, why weren't these digitized before, and what happened? And so I immediately thought that maybe the multiple would be the best way to approach this, because then somewhere, somehow, right, if there are multiple of these things, that it would live on. And if we did this right, not only would we have this kind of archival, artwork that could be studied in multiple places, but it would also be something that could keep alive the memory and the importance of the work that Du Bois did originally.
And I think conceptually, too, it worked out really well to be working with shops all over the country, because originally Du Bois did this work in Georgia, in Atlanta, and we, thought it was maybe important to keep with that. And then we realized, in 1900, the majority of the Black population lived in Georgia in the South. And now there's Black populations all over the country, with very different lives and stories. And this was a way to, highlight that geographic diversity and reach all over the U.S.
Yeah. I want to circle back to the shops for a second. So you're absolutely right. There's probably not a shop on the planet that could say we can produce an edition of X of 30 prints for you. It would take us 10 years, right? Like, it would just be impossible. So it is a good solution. And the other thing is that having 6 portfolios of 5 prints each, it's almost like, in Paris, you would get Le Rire or something, and you would get like just a little bit of it. And then as a collector, you would bind them yourself. It's almost like it's a subscription, and you're getting the first set from Maloney, and then you're going to get the set from Island or something. Like, I love that idea of harkening back to how publications like this worked in the past. So that's cool to me. And I have to say, here's my big fat compliment. If I were in an institution, I would pitch it immediately, sight unseen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because it hits all the notes you want. It's important. It's a collaboration across disciplines. It's enough to make a whole show about. Like, it's got it all.
I can say more. I curated an exhibition called Black Pulp with Mark Thomas Gibson, and it started at Yale. It was taken on by PCNY, who's going to show these prints. But that experience, it did show me the meaningfulness of what could happen with a multifaceted project with a lot of depth, that brings up conversations that I think people want to have, but and particularly in institutions, but often struggle to do, either because their collections are not thorough enough to present that, or they're old, or they're older. And so as a contemporary artist coming into these spaces and having an actual work that is speaking to the current moment and not just a historical point of view, I think is really invigorating for institutions. It's invigorating for audiences. People can see themselves, like, not in a historical point of view, but in a contemporaneous point of view, and actually have conversations that are based in the now. And I think that is, there's excitement all around. That was true of Black Pulp. I think it's true of this project. I think when we started it, that was the immediate focus, that this would be something that should live in institutions, archives, places where people go to see and to learn about culture.
William, how many are in the edition?
The numbered edition, in terms of the sale, would be 20.
That's it?
That's it. It's very small.
Oh, ouch. Oh, no.
Yeah. The way that this will work, if that is the question, is there are 18 complete sets of 30 that will be for sale. Each of the shops will have the same number of complete sets. And then each shop will have 2 sets of their individual portfolios, sets of 5. That's sort of how we broke it down. Everybody, this all comes out of conversations with the shops. The fine balance of, wanting this to be special, and it should not be like a kind of mass-produced thing, and also so that it retains a kind of special, novel place, but also the need to kind of have enough that it would live in enough places. So that was the tricky balance, and we came down to 20, right? And on top of that, of course, includes artist proofs and printers proofs and archives and things like that, so that they are printing more in a sense than just the numbered edition.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, so the question that just re-popped into my mind is, I know you're not going to break up any of them to sell individual sheets, I hope, but are sales specifically for libraries, archives, and museums? Are you keeping it to an institutional sale, or can a private person buy one?
A private person can buy one. We didn't put any stipulations on that. It does tend to be something that seems to speak to institutions, as we've had conversations around it. So I think for the shops, that might be the first place to go, but there's no stipulations on it.
I'm pretty sure that they're not going to have to hunt for people to buy this. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be fine. 20 seems like not very many to me, which is fine. I understand the sort of specialness, rarity idea, but the update and the information goes beyond the print ecosystem. Like it goes off into Shraddha's world, and I wonder if there is some nice people out there who would do a trade version of it as a book.
Yeah, me too. Maybe we can get together and find those people. After this exhibition, we certainly will be ready with enough content to produce a book.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that actually was another question I had. I saw you give a talk online recently when I was researching you too. And there's things in the portfolio, as usual, in a portfolio, there's some stuff that's outside of the prints themselves. There's a colophon and a this, that, and the other. And you have, I think, an essay in there, but and there's more writing about it. Like, I feel like a trade publication could include all of the things. It would be really great to put everything together in one place.
Let's do it.
Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention about the collaborative nature of the printmaking ecosystem is that I worked very closely with Luther Davis at Powerhouse, and you guys worked with them for a section of this project. And he revealed to me, probably he shouldn't have said anything to me, but he revealed that when the shops and you guys got together on a call to figure out who was going to get what, that everybody agreed immediately that 1 through 5 should go to Graphic Studio because they were the first people you worked with, and so that it all fell in line and nobody had it just proves how great this little corner of the art world is.
Yeah, that was the easiest. I thought that was going to be the hardest meeting I've ever had, and it was absolutely the easiest meeting.
Kudos to all you guys. So have you finished everything? I feel like I just saw you were out visiting with Rhea and Pam at Paulson Fontaine. How did that go?
Yeah, that was our 6th portfolio. We were just in Berkeley last week and we finished them up. So our part is done. And
the printers are still working.
Yeah.
When you were thinking about the shops, I mean, I know sounds like you were shopping around for people who wanted to join the party. Did you pick shops based on their specialties, and therefore is the portfolio across all media techniques, I guess?
Well, it was a balance. I think in the beginning, finding shops to collaborate with us, at that point, we were trying to find people that collaborate with us and get the project done. So we weren't being extremely picky, other than we wanted to work with institutions that had like really strong histories of contemporary printmaking, and if at all possible, connected to research centers and universities. Partly because there's a component of this that wants to reach out to local social scientists. That was the initial parameter that we were going for. As shops said yes, we actually found the other shops suggesting their colleagues to us, and then we would reach out, and that made finding the collaborators pretty fast, and it actually is made for a really good energy. Like every shop, every time we go to a different place, there are professional and personal connections that are across, and there's conversations outside of us that are being had that I think are productive. But we are kind of getting to almost everything, like I think the most unique maybe is West Coast of Maloney and Paulson Fontaine. So Paulson Fontaine, there's only etching. That was, I think, the only shop, right?
Yeah.
That was, okay, we only do this. Whereas some of the shops will do a mix of things that they always do, like 2 or 3 things. Paul Maloney in Portland is really into collaging Japanese papers, which is a totally different than anything the other shops do. So I think this is a pretty wide range of techniques.
Well, and the follow-on to that is, as you compiled your list of which pieces of data the 30 would cover. How did you decide which shop would get what 5?
I think some of it was just practical in terms of like when the shop was ready to work with us and how far we'd gotten on a portfolio. There were ones that, we were very excited to get to and do early on. Like we had connected with some researchers in Puerto Rico, and at the time we were working here in Powerhouse in Brooklyn, and we wanted to make this visualization about skin color and race that fit well with like our theme of populations that we wanted to do as one of the foundational sets of looking at what is the Black population in the US. And so that kind of worked out well. And then everything else seemed to just kind of fall into place, right?
Yeah, it was a mix. I think some shops really wanted to take on particular things. We also nudged shops to take on a particular portfolio because we had images ready. And so, so it was a mix.
So in the process, you're not going sort of on a residency at a graphic studio. You have the images ready and you turn them over in a sort of traditional way, right?
I think it's more of it's definitely a residency. So we'll like start with as much as possible here, doing the research, and Shraddha will, work towards getting some type of infographic to begin with, like a bar chart or something. A lot of times we're having these conversations about, okay, the best way to see this is a bar chart, and then how can I figure out an image around that? And so I think we walk into the studios with most of the research done, sometimes with that basic infographic and an idea for a print. And then sometimes the residency style gives us enough concentrated time to like really do all of that, do what we can't do in 2 months in the course of 2 or 3 days. So yeah, it's definitely a residency. We go to each shop for a week, right? So we do have the time to do some of the work, but we try to come in with 2 or 3 things like really ready to go images, so nobody's sitting around,
Right. We don't want that. Shraddha, is there one piece or one of the 30, the stat for which we would all be shocked?
I think one of the earlier ones that we did was one about homeownership among the Black population in each state. And actually the place with highest Black home ownership in the US is Puerto Rico, which is closer to like 70 or 80%, which really surprised me. But then as we were talking with our friends in Puerto Rico, they said that it's often these homes and lands have been passed down from generation to generation, but people often don't have the paperwork to prove their ownership. And so when the hurricane hit, that was like 8 or 9 years ago at this point, and, FEMA was coming around and, people have to prove their ownership to get funds to rebuild their homes. And they're not able to do that, unfortunately, because of these like informal systems in which the homes are owned and, passed down.
That's amazing. I'm amazed by that. It's hard to think in the 21st century that there's a system in which there's less, Is there one that you thought, this completely confirms everything I've always thought? This is your business, so you're probably not surprised. William, are you surprised by something? It's like you guys are speaking to each other silently.
Yeah, there's like
it's hilarious.
Well, I'm thinking about like the most recent portfolio that we just did last week is freshest in my mind, but we did a visualization about prison labor wages that, we were using it as an update to Du Bois's visualization about the number of enslaved people in the U.S. and making the comparison of prison labor to slavery. And I think that shows exactly what we expected, right?
That basically it's a modern form of slavery.
Yeah. The through line has come straight through.
Yeah.
I feel, well, we are in weird times at the moment where no one would like anyone to teach any of this stuff, but I When I look back on growing up and what we learned in U.S. history or whatever, and the stuff that I've read in the last, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years or something, there have been pieces about that history that have so surprised me in terms of it not being clear, clearer. Like it just, I think that we were taught a really rosy picture, and it disappoints me seriously that that's how we were. Like it's just been shocking how much stuff we did not get taught.
Yeah, you get taught, like the 13th Amendment says it pretty clearly, but you're not, it's not spun that way when you're younger. It just says, oh, this is the amendment to abolish slavery, but it says pretty clearly in there, unless unless you're, basically unless you're incarcerated, then all bets are off. And that is an absolute concession to the Confederate States to keep the institution of slavery alive in some form.
I live in Baltimore, and I feel like Baltimore is one of the best examples of redlining, systemic redlining in the nation. I mean, it's a strange place to live, honestly, because I grew up in New England. So to have this, I mean, I'm below the Mason-Dixon line or whatever, but it just hasn't stopped, even though laws have been enacted to, equalize stuff. But it's astonishing to me how easy it seems to be to go around all of that, like it just doesn't, Baltimore can't seem to get out of its own way to, raise everybody up. Like it's just nuts.
I think it's that way across the U.S. That story is, I would say that's the story of Black communities in every place that we've gone. Some form of covenant laws that are still in the books and hard to get in and around, that one could interpret in a way today that doesn't feel like it's a type of redlining, but it is, and it still exists, or just Black communities that have been decimated because of development. A highway has gone through at some point in the history, and that has displaced, tons of people and ripped up people who actually had home ownership and had all these things, and then all of a sudden they don't. Eminent domain, and the laws have been set up so that could actually happen, So yeah, it's kind of incredible.
And then even things like real estate agents steering people to certain neighborhoods or buildings because of their race, or landlords not accepting housing vouchers as a valid form of payment, is, types of discrimination that are very much present that, I don't know, I guess they're not legal, or at least in New York City, it's definitely not legal, but still very much.
Yeah, no, it's not.
happening.
Yeah. This makes me think about Portland and our time in Portland, because we had, Portland is the most extreme case of this, in which the displacement of the Black population is literally there's almost like no Black people. There's Black people there, of course, and there's Black communities, but all of the historic communities have been decimated. We found ourselves trying to find things, but at the end of the day, we found stories of rebuilding, these kind of stories of how to rebuild, which turned out to be a positive thing. But I think it was the only thing that we could kind of focus on in terms of that, the types of initiatives and Black community organizations and such that are trying to not only secure housing for the Black community so people can stay and have lives and live and have children and build that community, but also, all the types of infrastructure that you would think of, from housing to education to, you name it, jobs. There are tons of organizations working to build that back or build that up from what was completely decimated. It's like, I don't know how you would call that, but Oregon and Portland, they got rid of, at some point in the history, that was a very...
Well, for a long time, Black people were not allowed to own land in Oregon, but in the 1950s, and I think during World War II and the time right after, a lot of Black communities moved there to help with the shipbuilding and the industry and things like that. But then that got decimated during the 1980s, and now that's... maybe starting to come back, or people are working on it.
Yeah, it almost seemed like a point at some point to get rid of the Black community completely, like, really completely. And I would say they did a pretty good job of it.
It seems like it. Yeah, I have a brother in Seattle, and whenever I go there, I'm like, where are the people of color? It's such a bizarre feeling. You're wandering in the airport, and it's just a sea of white people. Like, what is happening here? Like it's like another planet somehow. Oh God. Oh, it's so bad. Jesus. Oh, sorry. Shraddha, is there a data visualization that you two came up with that you fought with William about, that you hated what he was coming up with?
I think in the beginning we argued a lot.
We fought a lot. But I think it was because we were just not even talking the same. It was like trying to talk two different languages and like as if you were actually talking, like communicating. We just were not. Like it was just like really hard until we learned how, right? Like
I think in the beginning Will would look at a bar chart and be like, can you make it look like this? I'm like, no, I can't change the way a bar chart looks. It's showing data, like I can't just shape it into the shape of, I don't know, the United States because you think that's how it should look, and but then I think we were able to distill down, okay, a bar chart is really just about size or length, and so it can be a length of anything or any shape. And I think that kind of helped us move past our initial sticking points. And the most recent few portfolios, I feel like we've been able to get from the data to the visualization much more smoothly.
But you have an interest in the visualization anyway, so you bring a graphic sensibility.
Yeah, it doesn't get pushed, right? It is what it is. It doesn't get pushed and pulled, but the formal aspects of how it presents itself on the page can get pushed and pulled. And I think that over time, I think you've even seen ways to do it.
Yeah, and I think I've also loosened up a lot on like how we show the data, because there's like a level of precision to the data that you can't really perceive visually, so maybe it's okay to like fudge it a little bit to get the point across, but maybe we don't need to be faithful to the pixel of how the data is shown,
The question is, can people just look at it and immediately understand what they're seeing?
Yeah, I think each one is trying to make a point, right? I think it's a single point. And the exactness of the measurements of whatever the unit is probably is less important, although probably goes against the grain as a statistician. But I felt like Du Bois had some really cool spirals and lines that would sort of bend back on themselves. And I thought it was super clever. Was he on the leading edge of visualization like that?
This was his first time really doing it. And I think he absolutely was kind of on the cutting edge of it. And he has these aesthetics that come up more and later after he did these, right? Like Bauhaus and things like that became, so I wonder if he was having conversations with those people beforehand but he was absolutely on the cutting edge there.
Yeah, that would be an excellent topic for a dissertation.
You were also saying that in terms of the use of data visualization for population.
Yeah, it was one of the first times of using data to represent populations rather than scientific studies or climate or things like that. And
agriculture.
Yeah, that's more how it had been used previously.
But the census had been going on for a long time, right?
The census had been going on, yeah. But initially the census collected pretty basic information because the point of the census was just to count people for electoral college and representation, so.
Social science itself was a new thing when he was doing it. He's like one of the earlier people to call himself a social science or develop the field of social science.
It's fascinating, really. Gosh, I need to do more reading, clearly. You guys started a GoFundMe page to help finance the project, which I just checked on, and it looks like you're about halfway to your $30,000 goal. And is that something that you've collected and you've stopped, or are we still hoping that we can fill the rest of it?
We stopped through the GoFundMe. We were able to fund the construction of the portfolios themselves and give that initial deposit, which, brought the cost down for everybody. They're beautiful fabric hardbound folios with foil stamping made by Hope Bindery. And so we're gonna pull it down. We didn't meet the goal, but let's just say we found other ways to. Another one of the things that we wanted to do was the silk screen, the front pages, which feature an essay by Nell Painter and a poem by Langston Hughes. And so we wanted to silk screen those, which is totally outside of what we're asking the shops to do. But I think we found a generous contributor to help us with that. So we met our goal in that sense.
When I think about the project as a whole, basically you guys are the publisher.
No, I mean, I think each shop is a publisher. Each shop is a publisher of their own portfolios, and they're exchanging them as a collaboration.
Okay. I still think you're the publisher. Not that it matters, but I mean, you're the grand vizier. I just don't want to get
in a fight with any of these print shops who generously work with us.
I mean, my point is like somebody didn't swoop in and say, let's publish a portfolio. William, Shraddha, can you do this, that, and the other? I mean, this is all you guys. This is your heart's work. And, I really applaud you for it because I think it's important stuff. And I love nothing more than important art. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're having a hard time taking a compliment. Hands up. Is there anything we've missed talking about the portfolio? Do you want to let people know?
We should say that the exhibition of the 30 prints will be part of a group exhibition at Print Center, New York, opening September 18th. The exhibition is called Data Consciousness, and it also features a couple of other artists, and the focus is really thinking about data in our current moment in relationship to Black lives and how printmaking has played a part in that. There's Silas Monroe, Jamila Anand.
I have the list up on my computer if you want me to.
I didn't know you were going to ask me all this, and I know
it's okay. Don't worry. So first, we should also say that the show is curated by Tiffany Barber, who's a curator out of LA.
The exhibition.
And the artists included in the show are you two, Tahir Hempel, Julia Mallory, Silas Monroe, and Camila Janan Rashid.
That's right.
When Luther first started talking about the project and inviting you guys to come and speak at the Brooklyn Fine Art Print Fair, he was he's so excited about life and everything, which is what I love about him. He was so excited about the project, and he kept saying, and I'm going to show it at, PCNY. And in my mind, it was just the portfolio, because 30 prints can take up a whole lot of space,
Yeah,
and then I saw, yeah, and it will. And then I saw this. I'm like, oh, wow. This is going to be interesting to see how Tiffany arranges the group aspect of it. Because I feel like, the portfolio is the anchor, right? As I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think also, and there's so many points in this project that we want that maybe matter a lot to me, that maybe are things that are not necessarily on the surface meaningful to other people, but we were trying to think about how to not only do this project, but think about the American Negro exhibit that Du Bois originally did. And in that exhibition, Du Bois also presented with his colleagues from the State Department, Callaway, I believe is the last name. So Du Bois himself, he had a curator. He didn't do it in a vacuum. He didn't do it by himself. There was a lot of people involved in making that happen. So when we approached Print Center New York with our project and said, this could be an exhibition and will you consider it? We all immediately thought about the original exhibition and we all agreed, this is an image.
That's like a photo of the original exhibition. So you can see the data visualizations, but there's also books by American authors and photography and a lot of other elements highlighted there.
Yeah. So it just made sense to get an outside curator, Tiffany Barber, and she's shaped this exhibition in a way that I think speaks to how data is being used in the contemporary moment, contemporary art, and from a wide range of people, right? All the artists are really different. They're not all painters and sculptors. It's a really interesting mix of disciplines.
Oh, okay, cool. Tiffany also wrote an essay for the exhibition that's currently at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, everybody. So she's an expert on William's work. I mean, I think there's probably more than one, but she is the person. Like, she's the go-to, right?
Yeah, well, the essay she wrote in the Myths and Migrations catalog is just completely, when I read it for the first time, it was just completely mind-blowing that this is someone who has looked at all this work and completely gets it, and has written about it in ways and articulated things that I haven't been able to in 20 years of making my work. I mean, she was immediately the go-to person, and it not only for us, but for Princeton and New York had their eyes on her for a while and wanting to know how they could work with her. So it was really kismet at the end. It was like her sure to curate before she knew it or we knew it.
That's great. That's well done. Yeah. So I feel like you guys it's almost like the portfolio is this nexus in the little corner I call the print ecosystem, and that you've gathered in all of these various players into this project that I think is so meaningful. And I think it's such a cool example and idea for other people about what the possibilities are in creating something that's grander than they would ever have dreamed, you know? So I think you've set a really good example for people, and I think that's so awesome.
Thanks, Anna.
Oh my God, William! Yeah. Is he always like this, Shraddha? Okay, so my last question for you is, well, it's three-part question. Two-part question. How did you meet, and how long have you been together?
Oh, we met online, and we've been together for
more than 10 years.
Yeah, more than 10 years.
Wow. And what was it that William did on the first? I don't know if people were dating. My kids don't date. I don't understand the new system. Like, what?
We're old enough.
What did he do on the first date that really got you?
He was just like a very normal person. And, you like meet people online, and half of them are, I don't know. He was only like my second online date, but the first one was very weird. So we were both very like non-committal. Let's just go have a cup of coffee, and then enjoyed hanging out, and just kept hanging out after that. And then he had tickets to this Jason Moran show the next weekend, and he invited me to join him, and yeah, and that was it.
The rest is history.
Back. That's right. Oh, that's awesome. It can happen. All right. What comes after the show and when the portfolio is all together and sold out?
We're going to Disney World.
Excellent.
Yeah, like you were suggesting, I think I'm going to try my best to see if we can find a way to make a book. But I guess my hope is that everything you just said comes true, and that, these things kind of live on. And I imagine if everything happens in the way that you said, we'll be living with Printing Black America for a while and talking about it. And we're looking forward to that.
Excellent. Yeah, I offer my heartiest congratulations. It's a job well done. I can't wait to see the whole thing on the wall.
Thanks so much, Anne. I can't wait to share it with you.
Yeah, in the meantime, I'll have to think about publishers. I'm sure there is some small specialty publishing house that would be perfect for it, I mean, I guess the question is, what needs to be in it? Does it need to have something beyond what's in the portfolio itself with Nell's essay and, you know what I mean? Like, is there, wait, hold on. PCNY is publishing a catalog.
They will be publishing a catalog. The catalog will focus on all the artists in the exhibition for sure.
And it has an essay by Tiffany, right? Tiffany
will write an essay. There's a conversation between Silas Monroe, Shraddha, and I. And is there another?
There might be another.
Nell's forward for the project is going to be included in there. But they are also working on this as we speak. So.
Right. What do you mean? You got like 2 months before the show goes on.
Yeah. Well, we made the decision.
It.
We made the decision to release the catalog after the show was up because, getting all the photography and all of that and wanting to have actual documentation of the exhibition in the catalog. And we are hoping that this travels from New York to other parts of the country to be determined. But that is an active initiative for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I would be amazed if you had trouble placing it, honestly. I don't know who's working on that, but yeah, I think it's timely and important, and I'm sure several will pick it up. So that's going to be awesome too. All right.
It's been an amazing experience for us, honestly.
Oh, good. I mean, when you were sitting there talking about the book over your coffee table in 2020, could you have imagined where this would end up?
No. I could go on and on. As an artist, you go down a rabbit hole and it just evolves into whatever it is. So yeah, this is way different than what I even maybe imagined at that point. I thought it was going to be easy. I always think things are going to be easy. Oh, this will be easy.
I'm just completely amazed at Will's determination and ability to get this done. It's been really incredible to watch.
Yeah, so many
nice.
emails.
Yeah, but working together as a married couple, I mean, that can be fraught as well. So will this be the last project you ever work together on?
Will told me he does not want to work with me anymore at the moment.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah. Time will tell.
Time will tell. There you go. Time will tell. I say a bunch of stuff, and like after Black Pulp, I was like, I'm never doing anything like this again. Here I am.
Black Pulp was a great show, William. We talked to you and Mark. I think you guys met us in the show. Yeah, it was years ago. When was that?
That was probably 2016 or 17, and it was it during the EBA fair?
It was during the IFPDA fair week.
IFPDA fair.
Yeah. And we met you guys over there. It was such a good show. Oh my gosh, I love that show. And it also, I love, your interest in history. That was a perfect mix of historical backing into contemporary practice, as is this current project. So it's the through line in your work is just perfect. So I'm excited for you.
For sure. We looked at it like that. We definitely envisioned it like that. Black Pulp, I think we learned a lot from Black Pulp and brought it into this project.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I love it. All right. Anything else we need to tell people before we let you go?
I guess, what we should do is we should name all the publishers and print shops if we haven't done that.
Did we not do that? Oh my God.
I don't think we did.
I think you're right. I have a list right here that I meant to do. Oh, I'm so sorry. All right. Can you do it, or do you want me to do it?
You can do it.
Okay. All right. Just so that we cross all our T's and dot all of the I's, the 6 shops that are contributing to this massive project are Graphic Studio, Powerhouse Arts, Island Press, High Point Editions, Paulson Fontaine Press, and Maloney Printing Company, I think is what he calls that. Which are really, it's so interesting because they're very different kinds of print shops. I mean, not just in terms of what their specialty is and technique, but just in terms of how they grew and what institutions they're attached to or not. It's fascinating. It's such a cool, yeah.
Like, one time, like one place is like almost like a community center. I mean, like High Point Editions is like there's a classroom and there's like a community print shop and a gallery, and then Paul's shop is like, Paul's shop. He's in an old kind of printing, old commercial printing press, which is in this beautiful building. And he has like this incredibly large offset litho press that's from, I don't know when, but they've they're got that thing moving. It's just fascinating the differences in the equipment and things.
Shraddha, did you ever expect to learn this much about printmaking?
Oh my goodness, no. Will gifted me a silkscreen class at Robert Blackburn like years ago.
Nice.
That was like the first time I'd ever dabbled my toes in it. There's something about printmaking, just like the very technical aspects of it and the attention to detail that resonate with me and the type of work that I do too. So I was drawn to it, but I definitely didn't see myself going this far into it.
Thanks for inviting us to your podcast. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Platemark with William Villalongo and Shraddha Ramani. I really have deep respect for Will's work over the years, and the addition of Shraddha to the team has been really, I think, a game changer. Be sure you guys all check out the show at Print Center New York. I think the works are going to just really sing on the wall. All right. Thank you to William and Shraddha for being wonderful guests. Thanks, you guys. And also, as usual, thank yous go out to my team, Dan Fury of Extension Audio. Thanks, Dan, for being my sound guy and helping me with all of my technical issues over the years. A thank you also to Uncle Michael Diamond for the use of his original music. And a last one to Skip Barnhart and Lee Turner for sending me studio sounds that make up the in and out of each episode. Images are over on the show notes at platemarkpodcast.com, and also over there's a bunch of things you can do, but the prime one is to hit support and donate and help me keep the lights on. All right, we'll see you next time.